Why did you decide to tell the story of your adventurous life on paper in this weird digital era, the physical?
Well, you know what? I'm old school. Books are where it's at, you know. But this was actually something I had started working on a long time ago, and you know, as a musician, as an artist, it's almost inevitable that people are going to tell your story after you're dead and buried, regardless.
Yeah,
So I felt like if I didn't tell my story myself, there was a good chance that it would be told by somebody else who was, you know, who has their own opinions and their own interpretation of reality. And I figured I owed it to myself to tell my story, you know, so that the truth would be out. And you know, it really actually it got a lot off of my chest, and I think it was how do I put it? It was
like a
I'm looking for
catharsis.
the word now. Yeah, it was cathartic. You know, it got a lot of a weight off of my shoulders. You know, so it
Yeah.
was a good thing. It helped me grow and mature to the next level of my life.
And you experienced a completely different America in everyday's life, I suppose. How does it feel to live in the US in 2017? And what about Europe? Do you find it different from the days you lived around here?
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, it's a different world altogether. I mean, when I look at New York today, I don't see very much of what I remember. You know, even when you look at the skyline, it's not even the same skyline
Yeah.
anymore. You know, and I was telling a friend of mine in Rome that, you know, even when you look at New York, it doesn't, from a distance, it doesn't have the same visual. You don't see the Empire State Building anymore because it's all blocked with other taller buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, and even when you go to Europe, things have changed a lot. So, but this is life, you know. Change is always happening all around us. We just don't realize it because we're so wrapped up in our own personal lives that we don't realize that everything is, as much as it stays the same, it's always changing. You know, there's always
Yeah.
new things happening, and I'm just happy. You know, I'm in a great place in my life right now, and I'm still playing music and going on tour again. You know, life is really good. You know, I have no complaints.
Yeah. And your mom gave you the opportunity to personally meet the likes of Andy Warhol and Allen Ginsberg, two different yet equally important American icons. Which are your memories about them?
Well, Alan was kind of he was almost like a part of my family. You know, my mother was very close with him. My aunt was close with him. My grandparents knew him. You know, so for me, it wasn't so much like he was this iconic figure from another era. To me, it was just he was Alan, and I always had a lot of love for him, and he was always very good to me. He was a good guy, and Warhol, I only met him a few times. I didn't really know him. I just happened to be in some of the same places as him. But my mother knew him when she was younger, and you know, she used to hang out at the factory where he did a lot of his art, and used to shoot a lot of his movies. And she was actually in one of his films that wound up not coming out, but fortunately I have a couple stills from the
Oh,
film with my mother next to Warhol when she was probably maybe 16 or something, you know.
that's
But
amazing.
my mother was a very interesting woman, and you know, she did expose me to a lot of counterculture that, you know, maybe most parents would have been afraid to expose their children to, but she was a very adventurous young woman, and for better or for worse, she took me on those adventures with her.
Later on, your memories include the tales which seem coming straight out of the Warriors, even more violent and scary than the movie. And how did your extreme way of life help to, like, shape your nowadays personality?
It made me who I am. I mean, there's no question, you know. But you know, fortunately, it didn't kill me.
Yeah,
You know, so I still had time to keep growing, and you know, that's why I am where I am in my life now. You know, yeah, Yeah, it was much worse than anything fictional like The Warriors or even Clockwork Orange for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost an indescribable life, but you know, I did my best to describe it in my book as best as I could, and one of the best compliments that I got really when I had my first book signing in New York was a lot of people who came to the book signing were people that grew up in my neighborhood, and even some of the kids I went to school with, who are, of course, they're all my age now.
Yeah.
And even some of the members of some of the gangs that I mentioned in my book showed up. And all of them were saying that, you know, that I really depicted it exactly the way it was. And some of them said, yeah, man, I bought a copy of your book for my friend because they don't believe what it was like. And I wanted to share your book so that they could really see for themselves. So I feel with that, I feel like I did a good job of depicting it. You know, everybody said that this brought me right back to my childhood. This is exactly how it was. This is what I remember. So for me, that was really the best review that I got. You know, forget about the reviews in the press and the internet and so on. When people who shared the same experiences tell you that, yeah, that was it. That's really how it was. Then you feel then you feel, I guess, just the word vindicated. You know, like yeah, I did it. I told the story correctly, and that for me was that was more important than any kind of ego gratification or any kind of stroking myself, like, oh, I did this, I did that. You know, who cares? You know, that's not the important thing. The important thing is that I survived it, and
Yeah.
yeah, you know, I mean, I wouldn't wish my life on my worst enemy, but in the same time, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, you wrote some kind of a historical documentation.
Yeah, it was that was part of my intention because I wanted New York City to be almost like a character in the book,
Yeah.
where you could really get some, where you could get some an idea of what it was like, and also I was actually drawing a little bit of inspiration from, like, believe it or not, from Tom Sawyer and
Yeah.
Huckleberry Finn type, like, this is that was a different era, and it was a story being told through the eyes of a young person experiencing it, and at the same time you're getting an idea of history and what it was like. So I kind of I wanted that to be in there, like, this is what New York was like through my eyes, through my experience, and fortunately or unfortunately, depends how you look at it, I saw a lot of history. I met a lot of really influential people,
Yeah.
and as it turned out, I wound up being one of them. You know, that was not my that wasn't a choice that I made.
Yeah.
I was, I guess, blessed by the creative energy that came out of me and the people that I was around. You
Yeah.
know,
Some kind of
it's
synchronicity.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, it's strange to look back on your life and realize that it's a piece of history.
Yeah.
You know, not just my personal history, but it's something that affected other people. And it's it's pretty bizarre.
Yeah. And how did the contact with the Hare Krishna movement and especially with the mighty Gracie family and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu define your life's perspective?
Well, in very different ways, but I mean, first let me tell you, what I learned from being influenced by Krishna consciousness. There was a few years in my youth where I was clinging on to that for some sense of security, I guess,
Yeah.
and for some sense of meaning, because everything I had grown up was that, life is insane and it can be taken from you at any time. I've seen so many people die and so much violence and so many people overdosing and this and that, and I needed something that could give me some sort of spiritual anchor, maybe, like
Yeah.
something that gave me some sense of security. Like this wasn't the only thing that's happening. This life that we're experiencing is only a small part of reality.
Yeah.
So, the Krishna consciousness, it gave me strength when I needed it. It also helped turn me on to vegetarianism and stuff like that. But again, I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person. I don't cling to any one definition of religion or one definition of what people think God is or that. I don't have the I don't have the superhuman eyes to know all of that. I'm just a mortal man. I don't have this overview of the spiritual world. What the hell do I know? I'm not going to pretend. I think a lot of people, they talk a lot of shit, but they don't really know. They're just selling something. They're trying to sell something. But I'll tell you, the Gracie family, on the other hand, that also it changed my life
Yeah.
in so many ways, and all of them for the better. And one thing that's even more incredible is that, unlike the Krishna stuff, with the Gracies, these are real people. This is real life.
Yeah.
These are people that you can look up to, who are alive, who are a huge influence. And I'm really fortunate, man. Henzo Gracie's, he's my jiu-jitsu master, but he's also in many ways, he's an inspiration to me. He's one of the few people that I really can say I look up to this man, and I aspire to try to be more like him. Yeah. And I've really learned a lot from him, and in a lot of ways I owe him my life. I can say that.
And by reading your book, one can see you like some kind of fearless human war machine. And is there something that can scare in the present days?
I don't know. It in the time of battle, you don't really have time to be afraid. You only have time to react.
Yeah.
So, maybe it seems like I'm fearless. I don't think I'm fearless. I have the same fears as everybody. I mean, my biggest fears are for, and my biggest concerns are for other people. Yeah. Especially my children. And my wife, and I've been in a lot of combat in my life, and I think it sharpens you. It makes you the closer you get to death and to reality. I think it sharpens your mind. But I don't think I'm fearless. There's not a lot of things that get me afraid, I'll tell you that. But
Yeah.
maybe a shark, or maybe going down in an airplane.
And which suggestions would you give to young musicians who want to follow your steps and form a band to express their ideas or channel their rage?
You just have to be honest with yourself, with your what you're trying to express. Because I think there's a lot of false bands, especially in hardcore. It's a lot of image, a lot of pretending, a lot of acting. But I think, music and art should come from your soul. It should help free you. It's for me, it's like a combination of meditation and expressing myself. And I think ultimately that's why it influenced a lot of people, because it was really coming from my soul. I mean, the only thing I can tell other bands is, whatever you do it like you mean it, but make sure you have a lawyer read your contracts before you sign them.
Yeah, that's a good advice, I guess.
Okay. And stay in school, because you're not going to make a living playing music unless you're really fucking lucky. So that's my last bit of advice.
Yeah.
Have a lawyer, do what you believe in, but stay in school.
I've got a T-shirt with Mr. T saying, "Don't be a fool, stay in school." Which plan in the musical area?
Well, I just finished a 5 or is it 6 song EP, that is going to be out very soon. Right now, you can pre-order it at pledgemusic.com, and actually 48% of the profits are going to go to Dr. No, the guitarist from the Bad Brains, because a few years ago he had a health situation, and of course this as an old friend of his, I just wanted to do something to help him, and I know he has a lot of expenses. And I have about 15 or 16 new songs that I'm planning to record in February. So besides this EP, I have two EPs coming out. That one and some songs that I recorded in the early 80s that were like the original CRO-MAGS demos. So that'll be out. And then I'll be recording a new album. I have a lot of stuff going on.
So, dear Harvey, one final message, greeting to the Italian fans.
I just I can only say that I look forward to coming back to Italy. It was such a wonderful time there, and every time I've played concerts there, the fans, it's such a great response. There's so much passion, just in the culture, and it was an honor and a privilege for me, and I really look forward to coming back. And I'll be playing in Milan in December, and hopefully they'll set up some more shows, and I look forward to it.
Okay.
And you never know. One day I could move there. My wife has Italian citizenship, and she speaks fluent Italian,
Oh,
so it's
really?
always a possibility.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, my friend. I look forward to meeting you in person,
Yeah.
and I just give all my love and my respect to all the Italian fans, and I look forward to seeing you. And sometimes people are intimidated to approach me because
I
like
can
you
imagine.
see, I have a little bit of a reputation, but I just want to say to everyone, I'm always happy to meet the fans, and if you want me to sign books and records in this, I'm very proud. I'm honored to be a part of their lives and that my music has influenced them. So for me, it's always my gratitude to be able to sign for, my if my autograph means something to you, I'm lucky to have been a part of your life. That's all I can say. So thanks to everybody.